Okay, we're recording. Real talk, every time I watch an episode, I'm always a bit hesitant and worried that it's not going to be as good as the last episode. But here we are. Okay, so while this is all still fresh, today is Sunday, February 16th. The time is 2:37 p.m. And I just finished watching episode 5 of Paradise. Apologies for the delay in this video. So, episode 5. Oh no, I closed the window, but let me find it real quick because it's important we go over the title of this episode. So, the title of this episode is In the Palaces of Crowned Kings. In the Palaces of Crowned Kings. A part of me thought this episode was going to be about the president's father, but it ended up being a little bit more about the president. So in this episode, we learned that the deceased president, Cal Bradford, once upon a time, wanted to teach high school. He wanted to teach high school English. I mean, well, actually, we'll put a pin in that and come back to that. But turns out he's the son of a billionaire and his dad is pushed into politics. And I just thought it was so interesting. I was like, notice how every episode, or aside from Sinatra's episode, which I believe was episode 2, but pretty much every episode we see the male characters of this series, and we learn more about them through their relationships to their father figures, as well as their relationships with women. So they're like the people that they love, the people that they love, the people in their lives. So, for instance, with Xavier, we see his relationship with his dad, who was a pilot. Also, his relationship with his wife, who is dead or missing. We still don't know. We learned about Billy Pace's relationship to his uncle, who he murdered and then ended up in juvie and basically ended up on this weird mercenary track. And then we also see Billy's relationship to, what is her name? Jane. My goodness, Jane. Billy's relationship to Jane. And then in this most recent episode, we see President Cal Bradford's relationship with his father, who we learn is a geologist. So aside from him being a billionaire, he happens to be some sort of geologist, something. But then they also had a family business. I don't know. Oh, and I think they also did stuff to do with oil, because there was this whole conversation they had in the beginning where he talks about, there's no oil to be made. And then his dad's like, well, I want to focus on North Carolina. And then he's like, no, I just want to be an English teacher. Anyway, so yeah, I find it interesting that we learn more about the male characters and what has shaped them based off of their relationships to their father figures. Then it gets really interesting because every time the dad interacts with Billy, he's calling him Sniper. And as the audience, we're like, oh, he knows something. He knows things. But then Cal's just like, why'd you keep calling him a sniper? He's an agent. And I think it's so interesting that Billy's just like, hey, let's put a child lock on your father, because clearly Billy knew that the dad knew, and he was trying to shut it up so that Cal wouldn't know. This episode, we also got to finally find out what is on the iPad. I was like, what is on the iPad? I mean, I knew it was news of the world, or how the world is doing. But we find out all the communications to do with the expedition that the 4 scientists, geologists, volunteers, whoever, we find the expedition, all of that is logged in the iPad. But fun fact, the president, who is the president, does not have access to this information. He does not have security clearance. He's like, what the fuck? How do I not have security clearance? But who does? His dad has security clearance. thought that was interesting. There was the scene with Cal and Agent Collins, aka his boo thing. And Agent Collins talks about how she wishes that there were weapons down there. And then Cal's like, there are weapons down here. There are important people down here. There are weapons. Which is interesting because I'm like, aside from, obviously it was like 25,000 people were picked to then survive. We know that Sinatra is like the head of these people because Sinatra had a lot of money. We know obviously Cal's was the president in the former life, but like, who are all these other impressive, important people who are picked? Hopefully we learn about that in other episodes. But basically what I'm getting at, Cal, he mentions to Agent Collins, he's just like, there are a lot of powerful people down here. Of course there are going to be weapons. And that was a ding, ding, ding for me, because in the previous episode, if you watch that YouTube video, I was going on about like, where are their weapons down here? Because when everyone had to pass through security to get to this new underground world, they weren't allowed to bring weapons. So I'm like, where are the weapons? Interestingly, this episode, we learned there is a no pet rule, which is so fascinating because I hadn't clocked the fact that there are no animals in this world. I mean, of course, there are the fake ducks that they have floating in the water, which I now kind of believe are surveillance. And again, I'll put a pin in that, so hopefully we circle back to that later. But yeah, there are no animals in this world. There are no pets allowed. So Xavier's neighbor happens to have a little chihuahua that he brought into this world. And like, we can't know about it. Kind of wondering, like, you know, why are there no pets allowed in this world? Does it have to do with diseases, infections? I don't know, because clearly it wasn't a Noah's Ark situation when they were bringing people to this planet. So if there are no pets allowed in this world, it's now making me think, is there no meat in this world? Like, are they just all eating bioengineered foods? Is everyone just vegan? I know the bacon isn't real bacon, so yeah, I'm guessing there's no animal life aside from that one dog in this world. I feel like I'm going off on tangents. Okay, so I've gone over the bit about the weapons. Oh, this scene. Okay, so Xavier finally goes to figure out, like, where's Billy? Because in the last episode, Billy, foreshadowing, was like, I gotta tell you all these things. Meet me tomorrow. And then obviously Jane kills him. They go. Xavier, like, discovers that he's dead and turns to Jane. And I'm like, when I was watching this scene, I was hyper focused on what Jane was gonna do. I was like, how good's her acting gonna be? First, she was just very, like, blank. And I'm like, is this not suspicious? But then she was like acting for her life. She was back on the damsel in distress act, acting for her life as if she didn't kill him. And the crocodile tears, the alligator tears. Oh my God, Benny. She's literally leaning over his dead body as if she didn't leave him there the night before, and has all her fake tears just landing on his, like, very pale, comatose face. I was like, this lady is ruthless. Cut to just after when they're transporting the body, and she's like the one lady. I have a theory she's like literally the one female agent in this entire world. I have nothing to back this up with, but so far that's what it seems like. She's just like the one female agent in this group of agents. Like, oh my God. And all these male agents are like taking care of her and being like, oh, we're so sorry, Jane. Jane, to me, is the epitome of white women's tears. The weaponization of white women tears. Jane, a case study, a top tier example. Okay. Obviously, throughout the episode, we start seeing several scenes that we saw in previous episodes, like episode 1 and episode 2, about how Cal ends up dead. Turns out, Cal finds out what happens to the surface. Cal knows that he's in danger. He knows he's going to die. So he's leaving clues and stuff everywhere. I find it interesting that he made a mixtape for his son. But aside from making a mixtape, did he copy some of the files from the classified information, and did he move those sound files to a CD? Who knows? Cal, we see Cal write the special numbers or digits on the cigarette. Again, we still don't know what they mean. I had one theory that maybe they stand for the numbers of a plane, maybe. What else? Again, we see his relationship with Collins. I find it interesting that Xavier has the whole speech with his neighbor, and he's like, hey, they're notice how they're changing that light. They might be, what if they're putting a camera up there? And I'm like, this is gonna come back later. We're gonna circle back to it later. Before I circle back to all the things that I've put pins in, we have to, again, going back to this father-son relationship between President Cal Bradford and his dad. He goes to his dad the night before, he's dead, or like the night of, and he says to him, he asks his dad, what would Mom think about this situation? And his dad says to him, he asks his dad if he's proud of him. And his dad replies, you never did anything I didn't do for you. Well, specifically, you never did anything I didn't do for you. Ooh. But then we have a full circle moment with that when his son, Jeremy, has the interaction with his grandfather, and he's thinking that he's Cal. Or, here's the thing, does the grandfather actually have dementia? Or are they giving him pills to make him think that he has dementia so that he doesn't tell everyone everything, but he knows more than he lets on? I think in that moment, he actually knew he was talking to Jeremy, but he's just such a man, and toxic masculinity, he just didn't want to own up to his truth, so he'd rather pretend he's talking to his son than talking to his grandfather, if that makes sense. And I feel like Jeremy knows this, which is why Jeremy, in return, then had a conversation with his grandfather as if his grandfather was his father. It was a nice little weird bonding moment there. But, so earlier, the father said, you never did anything I didn't do for you. Full circle moment, he then says, I am not proud of anything I did, but I am so very proud of you. I am so sorry, son. And that was gut-wrenching because obviously he never had a chance to actually tell his son that while he was alive. We then see his interaction with Xavier's daughter. Well, in a previous scene we see that. But then we see him have the realization of how he knows Xavier's daughter. When that first happened, I thought, oh, he's just mixing up his black woman. He confused her for Agent Collins. No. In this grand reveal, which I thought was the most exciting part of this episode, we find out that it's Xavier's daughter who stole the iPad. So now I have even more questions. Why does she have the iPad? What does she know? Why was she there that night? Did she accidentally kill the president because she climbed up the thing and threw a rock to get through? I don't know. We're yet to figure that out. Anyway, now I need to circle back on things. So there are no pets allowed in this world. Xavier says, hey, I'd like to follow up on this favor. We learn that the neighbor probably is one of the weather people. So he's able to kind of code that huge message at the end that says they're lying to you. Turns out Xavier's right. All of these lights have cameras in them. So there's like surveillance around the world. What else did I want to say? Oh, the fact that Kyle Bradford wanted to teach high school English. We find out that his mom taught high school English. So there was like that kind of follow through. And what else? Hopefully I've touched on everything that I was hoping to circle back on. And then based off of the way this episode ends, the fact that Xavier tells his daughter Presley to pack a bag and all of that stuff, and the teaser for the previous week. Hopefully everyone is watching the teaser at the end of the credits because it's the best bit. If you don't know there's a teaser at the end of the credits, clearly you've never watched a Marvel movie. Not that this is a Marvel movie, but like you always get a check for anything post-credits. It's gonna be full on Civil War. It seems in these following episodes. So I'm interested for that. Yeah, let me check if there's anything else I missed. Agent Collins knows about the weapons. Yeah. I think I got it all. So yeah, that was this week's episode of Paradise. I'll catch you next week with episode 6. Bye.